Dahmer was not only a psycho, but he also had too much free time, and I'm sure things wouldn't have gotten so bad if he had Polybuzz AI, an app which offers you free, private, and unrestricted AI character chats.
Well guys, today's a pretty gross one. Now we've talked about a lot, and I mean a lot, of tone-deaf and disrespectful videos on this channel. You know, stuff like people whipping out a ukulele to talk about how they definitely didn't touch any children. Cool stuff like that. But today, we are looking at one of, if not just the most disrespectful, most tone-deaf video I have ever, and I mean ever, seen on YouTube. Now, YouTubers making horribly tone-deaf videos is really nothing new. If anything, it's one of the great constants of YouTube. No matter what day it is, no matter what's going on in the world, there is somebody, somewhere out there, making a video that is so unbelievably inappropriate that it's gonna make the people watching it think that the person who made it could not read a room if it was an audiobook. In our modern age of social media, there is basically nothing that is like really deemed off limits when it comes to what you can turn into content, and that leads to people making some really questionable videos sometimes, and well, that's what we're looking at today. Now, if you watch a lot of YouTube, you've probably seen this cycle many times before. A certain kind of channel or a certain kind of video will start to go consistently viral, and shortly thereafter, a lot of people will start to copy that kind of video or that kind of channel in order to cash in on the easy virality. And one of those kinds of channels recently has been the whole like blank explained as fast as possible kind of channel, where people usually take like historical events or hard to understand concepts and they try to explain them as quickly as possible. And today we're talking about one of those channels called the Evaluator, who recently made a video titled Every Jeffrey Dahmer Victim in 18 Minutes. Now, the morality of people trying to profit off of stories like this, off of stories like Jeffrey Dahmer and his victims, has been debated quite a bit. Personally, I'm not really a huge fan of the true crime genre. I can understand it to a point. Like, morbid curiosity is a pretty natural thing for a human to possess, so I'm not gonna sit here and be like, it's crazy or it's necessarily wrong to want to learn about stuff like this. However, I feel like some people consume so much of it that they begin to treat it like something other than real stories about real humans being brutally murdered. Like, I've met people who talk about serial killers and their victims like they're almost part of like a TV show they watch or something. It just feels like a lot of people watch so much of it that they kind of forget what they're watching or what they're listening to. And I think the same can be said for the people who make this kind of content, as is going to be demonstrated today. This video that dives into the victims of Jeffrey Dahmer is one of the most tone-deaf, disrespectful things I have ever seen, ever. It's a shitty, poorly researched video full of clip art and stick figures, which is bad enough, but the way this guy talks about real-life victims of a serial killer is just gross. He makes the same jokes over and over again, saying stuff like Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment was a haunted house, blames the people who were murdered, saying shit like they must have never heard of stranger danger. He uses Minecraft sound effects. There's this like cartoon sounding background music, all while talking about the victims of one of the most prolific serial killers of all time, who many still have living relatives today. And to top all of that off, he has a fucking sponsorship in the video, which look, there's nothing wrong with taking a sponsorship. However, there is something wrong with putting a sponsorship for what is basically just a porn chatbot in a video where you talk about a serial killer whose crimes were often sexually motivated. It's also not okay to introduce that sponsorship by saying maybe if Jeffrey Dahmer had access to this porn chatbot, he wouldn't have done the things that he did. Yeah, it's that bad. Every time you hear something in this video, you're gonna think, okay, surely it can't get more tone deaf, it can't get more disrespectful than that, and then like a minute later, you're proven wrong. We're not gonna be going through this entire video because I just don't think it's necessary, but I am gonna be showing you some of the especially bad shit that was included in this video, and well, I guess you can form your own opinion. Let's begin. Please subscribe.
Stephen Hicks, 18, June 18th, 1978. It's 1978, the summer of bad haircuts and even worse decisions.
So just like right off the bat, why is the tone of this video like this? Oh, the summer of bad haircuts and bad decisions. Like, you know, you're talking about an 18-year-old who was murdered, right? Actually, you might not, because you've got this like cute little cartoon face up in the top of a guy getting bonked in the head with a dumbbell. Like, really? This was an 18-year-old who was brutally beaten to death with a dumbbell, had his whole life ahead of him, and this this is how you picture him. He does this for all the victims, which is just so fucking gross. Makes a cartoon face that depicts how they were murdered. It's like, come on, dude, who the fuck does this?
Classic horror movie mistake. Never accept rides from creepy strangers in Ohio.
I mean, it's just shit like this that leaves me scratching my head. We've got a Minecraft zombie sound effect followed up by an Ohio joke. Really?
Dahmer was not only a psycho, but he also had too much free time, and I'm sure things wouldn't have gotten so bad if he had Polybuzz AI, an app which offers you free, private, and unrestricted AI character chats.
So, yeah. That is a real-life human who thought it would be a good idea to introduce his sponsor for the video, a video, by the way, which is talking about the victims of a serial killer, with a joke implying that maybe those victims wouldn't be victims if Jeffrey Dahmer had a shitty AI chatbot companion. Yeah, that is one of the most disrespectful and tone-deaf things I've ever seen on this website. Like, again, you are talking about real-life people that were murdered, and in that video, you decide to try and profit off of a joke at their expense. Like, really, dude? Also, it really goes to show just how shitty of a company whoever made this is, because I can almost guarantee you that they had to sign off on this script, and they read that, and they're like, yeah, awesome, cool. We don't give a shit because we're soulless. Just put it in.
Now, Stephen Toomey was just a regular guy working at a restaurant and living his life, but a night of very terrible luck and even worse choices placed him right in that Dahmer horror movie sequel.
Okay, so I wanted to address this because he says this a lot throughout this video, pretty heavily implying that what led to all of these victims becoming victims was just bad choices on the victim's part, which is just a crazy thing to say because a lot of Jeffrey's victims were just people that he met in a bar that went home with him after a night of talking, flirting, and drinking, which, you know, is a pretty normal thing for adults to do. To repeatedly imply that this is all the victim's fault because they went home with somebody that they liked is insane.
Once they get back to Dahmer's grandmother's house, things start off as expected. There's drinking, there's chatting, and James probably figures, okay, take some pictures, get paid, and bounce. But instead of just paying James, Dahmer drugs the boy, strangles him, and, well, let's just say dials the switch up into horror movie territory.
Actually, no. Let's not just say that because this is not a horror movie. You're talking about real-life people. So show them the respect that they deserve and stop making so many shitty jokes. This guy mentions this idea of this all being like a horror movie about a dozen times. I honestly think this script might be AI.
After a while, when the stench of the corpse was as strong as cow poo stored in a bag for years.
Watching this is just fucking pissing me off. Like, what kind of person makes this? I know by the end of this video, I'll have said this a dozen times, but again, we're talking about real people here. Imagine you had a child murdered and you find a YouTube video where somebody's talking about, oh, their corpse smelled like cow poop. Like, you're talking about a dead 14-year-old boy, and you're making a joke about the way that his corpse smelled? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Richard coincidentally runs into Dahmer. Dahmer offers Richard $50 to come back to his place, promising drinks and a good time. And, well, it's the 1980s. Going back to a cute stranger's place didn't sound like a bad idea at all. The only problem was Jeffrey turned every Netflix and chill hangout into a crime scene Dahmer.
Alright, so now we're going back and forth. Is going home with a stranger a bad choice, like you've been saying the entire video, or does it not sound like a bad idea? A whole lot of effort was put into this video for sure.
After he had gotten his fill, Dahmer then dismembered the corpse, pulling the skin from the bones, and since he's already far too comfortable playing human garbage disposal, he does what has become his standard routine and dumps Richard's remains in the trash like leftover Chinese.
Again, just shit like this, comparing the body of a murder victim to thrown out leftover food? What are we doing? I think this might be the most disrespectful video I've ever covered on my channel.
When he was done taking Polaroids of the crime scene like it's a twisted scrapbooking project, he has no use for the corpse anymore, so he broke down Raymond's body into tiny pieces, boiled the flesh in acid, and kept his skull as another grim souvenir. He bleached it, cleaned it, and then just kept it around like a haunted paperweight.
Like, at some point, I feel like it kind of just becomes pointless to continue talking about it. Calling the skull of a murder victim a haunted paperweight? Like, how could you possibly think making these comparisons is okay? The entire video is just shitty figurative language that really just isn't even necessary. I mean, you're talking about people who were murdered, dismembered, cannibalized, preserved. I mean, you don't really need to make comparisons. People understand the severity of what went down. But I feel like with that, we've likely seen enough. The entire video is basically what you've seen just over and over and over and over again. He sticks to a pretty strict formula. He introduces the victim like half blames them for what happened, says it was just a normal day or he was just a normal guy, as if like that matters. Describes how they were murdered, usually in a not very serious way, and then makes some shitty joke or some distasteful comparison about their body, the way it smelled, the way they were disposed of, something like that, and then he starts all over again. There is a right and there is a wrong way to talk about sensitive topics like this, and I've always said before that there's basically room for humor in anything, but making a cutesy cartoon video where basically every other line is a joke when you're talking about dozens of murder victims, that is not the right way to do it. The reason this video comes off so poorly is because it's not just like there was one or two things that were a little too far, a little distasteful. It's that there are more distasteful and disrespectful things in this video than there are things that honor and respect the victims. All the shitty jokes, all the shitty comparisons, the terrible art style that does not fit what you're talking about, implying that Jeffrey Dahmer may have been okay if he just had a chatbot. I mean, there's just so many things wrong that you can't excuse it. People who are this deep in the true crime genre need to start realizing they're talking about real people, because it genuinely seems like they've forgotten. Well guys, what do you think? Like I said, I just feel like people who make this content, people who consume this kind of content, at a certain point they get so immersed in it that they start to see it as something other than real life. I mean, I remember I went to a dinner once with some friends and one person started talking about this like true crime story where some guy beat a bunch of people to death with a baseball bat, and she was talking about it like it was just like a normal dinner conversation. It's like, I do not want to hear about that kind of thing when I'm trying to enjoy a meal. If you think that's like a normal, comfortable thing to talk about with anybody, you might need to take a step back and be like, okay, how am I actually viewing these stories? Why am I so entertained hearing about the ways that people lost their lives? There's a difference between enjoying learning about something and being entertained by something. If you are entertained by hearing people talk lightly about people losing their lives, if you're entertained by stuff like this, if you would have watched this video and not thought anything of it, might be time for some self-reflection. Just saying. See ya.